Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Secretary. I want to follow up with just a couple brief questions on the Chesapeake Bay again. Being from Lancaster County, and certainly it's something you hear in the news. You mentioned the agents came out to Lebanon County. The Reboot plan. Am I correct that EPA has restored the $3 million in program funding, provide that we implement this strategy? I mean, is that the key to this Reboot program?
Well, it is one of the keys, Representative, and yes, based on the strength of the actual strategy document, EPA has restored the $3 million that they withheld in May of last year.
Let me just, Chairman made a good comment. You know, I'm fearful. I actually, outside of this position of a state representative, I'm involved in stream bank restoration back in Lancaster County. I'm involved personally with an organization and help out other organizations. And I grew up in the middle of the Plain community. I was pleased to hear you say that you know they've accomplished a lot in Lancaster County. The farming community has done a lot, accomplished a lot to reduce the amount of sediment and the other, the phosphates, nitrates that are flowing into the bay. Because I know we have to look at that, and I think you're down there, I think as Secretary of Agriculture, you need to know what they've done, because the Plain community's done a lot of work without reporting anything. And I know the townships down there are very concerned about moving forward with this because, you know, we're very blessed and fortunate in Lancaster County to have people that can still make a sustainable living on 40 acres of land. And we need to be real careful what we do when we move forward. And I am concerned about the targets. You know, what are we going to try to accomplish? Because I'm not sure it's all farming that's the issue. You know, that seems to be the focus, and that's what the farmers tell me. And they said, you know, we're working hard. So I just want to, and you know that, and you had your meeting yesterday, I heard, and hopefully there was something positive that came out of that. I will also say, being in an agricultural area, and I know a couple of my colleagues were there from Lancaster County yesterday, but let's talk about the conservation districts, because there seems to be some consternation there, too. It seems like now they've worked for years trying to help farmers to try to, you know, make things better, make the environment better. But now they get to be the police officers, is my understanding. Is that correct? I mean, is that going to be how we're going to use the people at the conservation district? And I do think they're fearful of that. That, you know, these are people that have developed friendships, and now they're going to be, you know, kind of the tough guy, and say, well, now you're going to get fined, you're going to do all this. And I you know, I'm somewhat troubled by where we may be going here. I understand the importance of cleaning up the bay, but I also understand the importance of the local economy and agriculture, too.
All right, let me explain this as quickly as I can. We need to change our relationship and our partnership with the conservation districts. They have been a tremendous partner. They're incredibly effective. They do great work. But I would say to you that Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. We've got to change our approach to gaining compliance. And we felt that those closest to the farmers are our best aids and our best supports in creating that culture of compliance. Currently, under the Nutrient Management Program and under the Chapter 102 Soil and Erosion Program, conservation district technicians do inspections. We are asking them, and we will pay them for, doing agricultural inspections. So very much similar to what they're doing now, but it's an on-farm inspection, and it is limited. The Reboot is intentionally limited to a gradual approach into this. We are asking conservation district technicians to ask two questions. Do you have your erosion and sedimentation plan? Do you have your manure management plan? The data the DEP currently has, based on some watershed work around the state in the last several years, suggests that as many as 70% of farms don't have those plans. They've been required in law for 35 years under Pennsylvania's Clean Streams Law. So we got to start with the basics. We're also hoping with this survey of 20,000 farms that we're doing in cooperation with the agricultural community that we will get better data and put that figure to lie. And we want to make sure that we understand exactly what farmers are doing and have the best available data, not only cost-shared BMPs, but non-cost-shared, get data on whether or not farms have plans. And with a much more robust set of data, we can plan for the future in a much smarter way. But we're starting with the very basics, being respectful of the relationship that county conservation districts have with farmers. And again, we are funding this effort.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and you know, having it on record, because I do know that we need to be respectful and try to work, you know, with the farmers. I am concerned that we're going to create an environment where once again they feel government's being heavy-handed, and particularly with the plain community. And you know, I'm fearful that. I'm just very fearful moving forward. One last question, referring back to yesterday's meeting, Representative Tallman had wanted to have a question asked that in front of the Environmental Affairs and Ag Committee yesterday, you talked about creating a new office called the Chesapeake Bay office. And I was wondering which line item this office will be funded out of and how much, you know, the anticipated cost will be. The comment was, since this will be a new office, which line item or program will you have to reduce a program to offset the increased costs?
No. The simple answer is no. We will be assigning existing staff to that office. So we're just reorganizing the organizational chart. We're assigning folks who do this work currently in a rather diffused way into a focused management structure. So there will be no additional hires in this office. It will all be just a change in the org chart.
Just a shift.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Bullock.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Secretary Quigley. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. As a mom and a member of the Moms Clean Air Force, I and my fellow moms are working together to fight for our children's right to clean air today and tomorrow. For us, the Clean Power Plan is the Clean Air Act for our generation. Can you tell me the status of our air quality across the state, and for me, particularly in urban areas like Philadelphia? And what are the threats to our air? And what actions is your agency taking to monitor and regulate our air, as well as inform the general public?
Well, thanks for that question. It's rather complicated. Let me see if I can be very concise, Representative. And overall, because of the steadily ratcheting down of federal requirements, and the Commonwealth's implementation of those ever-strengthened federal requirements, I think Pennsylvania's air quality is better than it's been in decades. Certainly since it's better now than it's ever been, I think it's fair to say, before the Industrial Revolution. We continue to have some issues in urban areas that are driven primarily by the emissions from coal-fired power plants, which is why the Clean Power Plan is so important. The challenge that we face when it comes to regulating air quality, again, comes back to staffing. We have a very sophisticated air quality monitoring network throughout the Commonwealth that we are actually going to expand this year. We're going to add 10 counties in the shale areas. We're going to add PM 2.5 monitors in 10 additional counties over the next 2 years so that we can get better data on the impacts of, for example, unconventional oil and gas development and understand the impacts on public health in those communities. So we've got to get better data. But the challenge that we face is, again, one of staffing. We were written up by EPA for being severely understaffed in our air quality monitoring network program. So it all roads lead to staff. The agency's capacity to do its work under the Federal Clean Air Act has been degraded because of year-over-year budget cuts. The fees that we charge, they are all rulemaking in nature. We've got to do a rulemaking package to upgrade the fees, and it is very rare where a fee will actually cover the complete cost of the program. There's inevitably some level of general fund subsidy pretty much across all of our programs. So the fees never quite get 100% of the cost of doing business, and we have to update them regularly every 3 years. So we're on a treadmill when it comes to making sure that we have sufficient resources to manage and protect air quality in the state.
And you mentioned that all roads lead to your staffing. So I'd like to talk a little bit about your staff. And for me, regardless of the size of your staff, I believe that the staff should be reflective of our Commonwealth population. And at this point, our population is over 50% women and over 20% minorities. Can you tell me what what your demographics look like as far as your employment and diversity on your work staff?
Yes, and I appreciate the question. This is, I think, the first time that I've been asked that as a cabinet secretary, and I really do appreciate it. This is something that is very important to me personally. It's very important to the governor. He has launched a number of diversity initiatives across the Commonwealth. To be very honest, we're behind the curve. The DEP workforce is 64% white male, 29% white female, and 4% minority male, 3% minority female. So again, 7% of our total workforce at DEP is minority. The overall Commonwealth workforce is 54% white male, 32% white female, and 6% minority male, 8% minority female. So the split is 86% white, 14% minority across the Commonwealth. So we are less than that at DEP. And there are a number of reasons for that. Obviously, in my agency, we rely very heavily on scientific expertise. And that qualification and the limited diversity in college majors that are needed for DEP employment, plus an overly complex civil service system, makes it more difficult for us to recruit. With reduced budgets, we have less of a recruitment budget, very frankly, to reach out to these communities and institutions. And frankly, the best and brightest minority individuals coming out of grad school and college will have better paying opportunities in the private sector. So faced with that situation, we've taken a number of steps. And one of the first meetings I had on taking office actually was about this issue, to see what we were doing and what we could do better. But we are working on making better connections with minority universities. We have expanded our recruitment efforts to the high school level. We're working, for example, in Harrisburg with a number of schools to reach out and do a high school intern program, a paid intern program with the Harrisburg School District. The governor is working on establishing a new Commonwealth Public Service intern program that would lead to full-time Commonwealth employment and provide some flexibility in the hiring process. So we are very focused on increasing the diversity of the agency, both at the staff level and at the leadership level. This year, we did fill the Office of Environmental Justice with a minority individual who is just doing a fantastic job of redesigning that office. So this is a subject that we talk about a lot at DEP.
I appreciate your commitment to that effort, Secretary, and particularly look forward to your recruitment and high school internship programs in the future, bringing more diversity to your workforce. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Tom Killian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Secretary over here. Good morning. I was a little couldn't fall asleep the other night, so I was reading the testimony from the Senate Appropriations hearings, and I saw where John Udacek asked you a question, Senator Udacek asked you a question about the waste coal treatment, waste coal facilities, and you indicated that you were willing to advocate at the federal level that they're important, they clean our environment, and I was very, very pleased to hear that. And kind of along those lines, as you mentioned earlier, it looks like we're going to have to meet the standards of the Clean Power Plan going forward, and a large part of that, I think, in order for us to do that is nuclear, as well as wind and solar and other alternative sources. And I guess my question is, like the 27 jobs that Senator Udacek was concerned about, there's thousands of jobs, probably north of 12,000 jobs in nuclear industry, and then with the building trades, when they have their shutdowns, thousands more of great, high-paying, quality jobs. My concern is that as we move forward in meeting the Clean Power Plan, will the administration be willing also to advocate that it's a level playing field for all sources of clean energy, including nuclear?
Representative, thanks for the question. The continued viability of Pennsylvania's nuclear fleet is extremely important. They provide about 95% of the carbon-free energy in Pennsylvania right now. And on top of that, the thousands of jobs that are associated with these facilities, we have met with Exelon a number of times and continue to consult with all stakeholders in the ongoing work to design a draft plan for the Commonwealth. But the continued viability of our nuclear fleet is extremely important to the success of any low-carbon generating future for the state.